Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Basin. Welcome back to everyone who is already a subscriber to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews like this one, including the one coming at you right now with Tyler Dibert, who is an undefeated amateur fighter with a record of 1-0. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Luke.
Tyler, always great to have you on the show. You were very kind with your time last time it came on the show, but before and after your debut win for 247. Now that you've had a couple months after that, how has it been for you? How have you built on that? What does it feel like coming off a win, coming into your new fight, which is going to be, your next fight is going to be June 29th for Brawl in the Burgh. Yours is going to be on the 21.5 card, the noon card, the midday card for 247 Fighting Championships. So just what is it like coming off that great first win for you building into this fight?
I mean, it feels pretty good. Anytime you can get in there and get a win, it's always a good thing. Getting the first one out of the way is even better. I know just having that little bit of time off, had a bout that I agreed to in April that ended up unfortunately getting canceled. So just kind of going from one camp to the next, and then unfortunately that not happening, I've just been able to kind of maintain everything we've been working on. And that little bit of time off, we really kind of focused in on some areas where I was struggling, and we're able to sharpen those skills up a little bit and get them ready to go into this fight.
That really sounds wonderful. Who have been your main sparring partners or training partners? I would assume big man Dan Albright is probably working with you quite a bit. What's it been like? I know the most handsome man in MMA, Ethan, the Wolverine Goss double champ, had some surgery and an injury and had to be recovering. So I doubt you'd be training with him anyhow, just because of the size difference. So who are your main sparring partners at the legendary, incredible gym, Gorilla House?
I mean, Ethan's actually been in the gym a little bit, kind of helping out. I know Dan, he just recently went away. He's on some military duty. So prior to that, I was training with Dan quite a bit. Cam Algeier he's been in there quite a bit, helping out with his camp since Dan's away and Ethan's banged up. Then just some other guys that have popped in and out of the gym. I know a lot of my grappling stuff or grappling work has come from a lot of the guys that are just doing jiu-jitsu. So just kind of getting those different looks and different feels from them has been pretty helpful as well. But just as far as sparring goes, I mean, mostly it's been Cam and then just some other guys in the area that'll pop in every once in a while.
Gotcha. That's really great. And I know that you guys at Grill House has a really family-friendly environment where everybody just feels really supportive of each other. And even Ethan, hats off to him, the only professional champ ever in 247 Fighting Championships history, with at the same time holding both 145 and 155 pound belts. Very exciting. Cool that he's still coming around, even injured, just to still help out. Talk about your opponent. Your fight coming up is versus Carlos Bolliard. What do you know about him? And if you don't know anything about him, what's the excitement level of taking a fight and just knowing that at the amateur level, it's about getting back out there, continuing to develop your skills?
I mean, I know he hasn't fought in quite a while. He's taken quite a bit of a hiatus there. Besides that, I don't really know much. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of learn on the fly. It's not like the last fight where my opponent, he'd been more active and kind of get a feel for what he's doing. So kind of use the skills that I've developed and adjust in fight, I think will be a big part of that. Being able to adjust to what he wants to do and be able to kind of learn how to control the fight in that aspect and get to the positions I want to be in.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. Talking about the adjustments, now that you've had it went to decision, now that you've had a full 6 minutes amateur fight under your belt, and of course, you have a really great wrestling pedigree, so you're used to having to adjust. How confident now are you that you can adjust, that you can listen to your corners? You've got great coaches and Coach Ross and Coach Cassidy, sometimes some other coaches, but they're the two main trainers. So how confident are you that if you come into that corner and they give you an adjustment, whether it's something you're already doing great that needs to be done better or something that needs to be improved. How comfortable do you think that you can adjust in MMA versus obviously you were experienced in adjusting in wrestling?
I'm going to approach it the same way I did when I was competing in wrestling. A lot of times you could kind of game plan for matches and know what the guy's going to want to do in positions he likes to be in. But as the match goes on, sometimes you have to make adjustments and kind of force the issue and get to positions you want to be in. I think it's kind of approach it the same way for this. I know I have a lot of faith and confidence in Coach Cassidy and Coach Ross, and just following their instructions and trying to execute kind of what they're telling me and give me the best opportunity to win.
Well, that confidence goes a long way. And there's a big part of fighting, which is the humility to listen to coaches and then the willingness to get out there and put it together. And you have that from your background of wrestling, from your mindset. You almost physically and attitude wise seemed to me like you were cut out of the Gorilla House cloth. You know, that wrestling hard worker, grinder, really smart, really willing to put the reps in and then figure out a game plan. So would you like to make a prediction for your next fight versus Carlos? Obviously, he's a bit of a question mark to you. I did just do an interview with him. It's not up yet because I literally just did it. Didn't realize that I was actually having you guys on back to back. That's kind of funny. If I had realized that, I might have wanted you guys to come on together, but didn't think to do that. But he does say on that video that he considers himself a wrestler and believes that your wrestling will cancel each other out and that you guys will end up in a striking match because of both wrestling. Respond to that a little bit in the sense that, do you feel like his wrestling could cancel yours out? Do you feel like your wrestling is superior and likely going to dominate regardless of his background? Or do you feel like it may actually happen where you end up in a striking match? And if so, how do you think that will go?
I mean, Pennsylvania wrestling is different than Maryland wrestling. Same thing with in the college level, there's levels to it. If he wants to make it a wrestling match, I feel pretty good about that. I'd put my wrestling up against just about anyone. As far as predictions go, like I said before, I'm not big into predictions, but if we're gonna make it a wrestling match, then I feel pretty good about that.
And what would your thoughts be if it ends up being striking? Now, obviously, you showed in your last fight, and that's the point of MMA, that you worked your skills against a guy who was striking well, and you got to a position that's good for you. That's what MMA is. At the advanced amateur levels and pro level, you get to a dominant position like you did several times on the ground. Obviously, the fight goes differently. I personally like the novice and the advanced amateurs because I think it's good to allow people to develop. You develop, him develop. I think it's good. I know some people think they're too restrictive. I actually think they're probably overall good because in Virginia, you mentioned Maryland, but in Virginia, the state has it such that a debut fight is a complete pro rule fight. So, in your first fight coming in, let's say you're working on your shots as a wrestler in MMA, you could be eating knees to the face. And sure, you could be eating those in pros, but you would have had more time to develop and come up with a game plan. And so anyhow, so I actually think it develops nicely. But if it was going to be striking, how do you think that is for you now, particularly coming off of the first fight where there was striking, and then of course you mixed in your wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I think just having that time off, like I said, we've been able to work on some areas where I needed to work on. I mean, it's no secret, wrestling's my best asset and skill set. So that's one of the things we've been working on. And if that's what I need to do to win, then make sure we get it done.
Sure. Well, it's great to have a skill set. What started MMA all those years ago, 25, almost 30 years ago now, was skill sets event against skill sets. And originally, of course, the original skill sets, they didn't even try to learn the other skill sets. It was my skill set versus someone else's completely different skill set. And obviously over time, some of those differences have stayed. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is going to throw karate style, flavored kicks in a way that most people don't. And certain Damian Maya was very good at using relatively traditional primarily traditional, a couple other things are primarily traditional BJJ, but vast majority of gyms like yourselves, there's some specialties, but then everybody's trying to learn to get better overall. As always, it's fantastic having you on the show. I can't wait to see it. A quick plug for people to go ahead and get their tickets to see the show in person at 247fighting.com and give Tyler Dibert credit. You might also be able to get them directly from him if you're from the area or from the gym as well. If you're seeing this far flung and you want to watch it, then download now the 247 Live app. I'm always excited to say that 247 Fighting Championships has their own, as a regional promoter, very rare, probably might be the only one, at least very rare, to have their own app that you download any app store, download it, put it up on your TV or any smart device, and then therefore you can get the pay-per-view that way and give Tyler Dibert credit that way. This is a double header show. We mentioned that Tyler's in the 21.5, the noon card, but then there's an incredible evening card as well. If you're coming out in person, do both of them. And even if you're doing pay-per-view, it would still be a great idea to get both. Really appreciate you coming on. This has been Luke Payson with MMA Fancast, having a returning guest on the show, Tyler Dibert. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Luke.
You got it, brother.